Happy holidays, guys. It is week 16. Chris Meaney has showed up in quite the holiday spirit. I guess Mike Randle and I are a little behind on that, but I've got my Santa onesie. I wasn't sure if I should have worn that for this or not. I keep it. I should have, right? I was like, I'll keep it professional. No, I should have totally put the Santa onesie on because, you know, we like to have fun here. No, I love it, guys. Lots of teams fighting to get into the playoff spots. Lots of teams fighting to stay in playoff spots in contention. And then as we take a look at the slate this weekend, we can toss that up. I mean, we were talking before the show, a lot of pick'em games. Like these are getting close, guys. Lots of intangibles kind of coming down to those the motivation as far as like, okay, who's in the mix to jump into some of those wild card spots, and you know who's trying to stay top of the conversation. But I'm excited about this week. This is where things get a little crazy, which means that we don't really know where our money is going necessarily and where it's going to come out. Like, are we going to win? Are we going to lose? It's like every man for themselves, especially with a lot of the injuries that we've been dealing with and some key quarterbacks that have been out as well, guys.
We're going to win.
We're going
to win. We're going to put the money down, and hopefully we're going to have a strong week. Yeah, the three of us back together. It's been a minute.
I know.
And, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a great week, and it's going to be capped off by a potential Super Bowl preview. As you see on the far right with the San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens, we have the Cowboys and the Dolphins. Neither team can beat a good team, so somebody has to win. Imagine if they tied. It should be pretty good across the board. It should be a really fun week.
Yeah, Niners right now have the best odds to win the Super Bowl. We're actually going to get into some of those futures because it is that time of the year. But let's start with first key matchup. We've got the Steelers and the Bengals. Mike Randle, I know you're eyeing this game, right? Since he rallied for that overtime when they've got Jake Browning kind of running the way for them. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries, Jamar Chase. But yeah, what do you like here? Because they beat the Vikings for their third straight win, but on the flip side, the Steelers have lost 3 straight. So are you riding with Mike Tomlin, or are we sticking with the Bengals?
I've had enough of recency bias. I don't want picks based on recency bias. I do not care that the Steelers have lost these games in a row. Mike Tomlin in December and January over his career has been an automatic bet, especially when he's a home underdog. Guys, Mike Tomlin at home in his career as an underdog is 6-1 against the spread. The only time they did not cover, you guys remember this, was the Jesse James game where he caught the touchdown at the goal line but reached out against the Patriots and the ball moved. Yeah. I get it. It's a divisional game. I understand it's Jake Browning. I get all that. But Jake Browning hasn't been great unless he's had his full cadre of weapons. The first start that he had was against the Steelers 4 weeks ago when he didn't have T. Higgins, and that one didn't go well. He's not going to have Jamar Chase in this matchup. He's going to be limited. You know the Steelers' run defense is going to show up. I understand it's Mason Rudolph, but look at this little nugget I found here for Bet Labs, guys. Ooh. Mason Rudolph is actually 4-1 as a starting quarterback for the Steelers against the spread as an underdog, including 2-0 as a home underdog. Yes, I know it's a small sample size. It's Steelers. It's Tomlin. Everyone's against him. Steelers fans want him fired. They put up a sign, hire Matt Canada. What are we doing here? Steelers, wow, I put them as my money line underdog. I'll take the points against the Bengals. Yep.
Hey, look, no, I mean, the Mason Rudolph thing, though, like people, again, if you talk about sometimes these guys come in and we see it all the time, right? Like you get this newfound energy by putting a new guy under center. So I don't know, though. I mean, what are you thinking, Chris? Are you going to ride with Mike on this one, or?
I mean, all the numbers that Mike just brought up, I mean, it does favor Pittsburgh at home. They have not been playing good football. I actually think Mason Rudolph's their best quarterback. I really do. I think he's got the best deep ball of the 3 guys. I think we may see some action to Pickens in this game, which is something I've just been waiting to see. I think that the Bengals win the game, but being without Jamar Chase, he's made a lot of good plays for Jake Browning. Browning's got the high completion percentage. It's very small. The ADOT isn't high, but Chase has made some really nice plays for him to help him out, and T. Higgins did that last week as well. It should be a really good game. I don't know. Steelers fans may be drinking a little bit too much rum and eggnog to be asking for Matt Canada to be the head coach. I think they have a good thing in Mike Tomlin. Like I know that some people want a change in Pittsburgh. He's been there forever, but Mike just had it. Like this is a guy that's just been dominant at this time of the season. And I think he's gotten the most out of what he has on the squad. Like, this team doesn't have a good quarterback, and that's where they've been struggling offensively. They just haven't been able to put up points. So it should be a good game.
Guys, relying on go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, Abby. We see it across the board, guys, in all sports. All you want from your coach is sustained success. That's it. You have the Kentucky faithful who hate Calipari because he hasn't won a second title while he's there. What are you talking about? Tomlin has had sustained success in the NFL, which is really hard to do. You're not replacing him. Enough of this garbage. Hopefully they get it right and get back on the winning side this week.
So the line on Mason Rudolph's passing yardage, 191 in the hook. You're taking the over on that one, yeah?
I would lean maybe. It's definitely a stay away for me, just because there's just so many things that could happen. Rudolph hasn't played football in a long time. What if he suffered an injury? What if he was just awful? And then they're like, oh my goodness, let's go back to somebody else. Like, there's just so many different variables that could happen in the game. But I may take a look at like a Pickens receiving yard prop, because he's a big play guy. And I know that they'll take a couple shots on him. And it's probably, I haven't looked, I haven't seen it, but it's probably in the low to mid 40s, and that could happen on like one or two grabs.
Well, we know Pickens isn't blocking. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You're not going to be catching something.
There you go. Well, our models do show a little bit of an edge to play that over on Mason Rudolph. They're projecting 217 passing yards from him. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think you're right on that. Maybe it is a stay away. Okay, Giants, Eagles, Monday Night Football. We're looking at the game total. Can we get a wellness check on you and Jalen Hurts? Are you guys good?
I'm not okay. I don't know if Jalen's all right or not. I hope that he is.
Let's see that sweater you got.
I just got this like today.
Go Birds.
And it's just awesome. And I got the Philly special record today as well. So I'm going to play that on Christmas with a little bit of vino, and shout out to Jason Kelsey and Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. Just great. Jordan Mailata's got a voice of an angel. White Christmas, go listen to it. It's just phenomenal. But I am a little bit concerned about this squad. I really am.
Yeah,
and I know it's the Giants, and we talked in the green room about the Giants. Like, Philly should get right here in this spot, and they should win. But we've been picking on them a lot on the show, have we not? I know for me personally, I've been against them for 3 straight weeks on the spread. I had Seattle on the spread. It was a bad spot for them to go into Seattle. It's a tough place to win. They had lost like 7 games in a row, and I know Drew Lock did some magic sort of stuff, and that's just the way it's gone for Philadelphia. They've been on the right side of those plays early in the season. They've been on the wrong side of them lately. And they went through a really tough schedule and facing teams that are elite in San Fran. And I believe Buffalo's in that conversation on, extra rest. Don't want to make excuses, but they did go through a pretty crazy stretch. They should get right at home. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just pessimistic. The Giants at 12.5 here.
Even in his Go Birds sweater.
I'm a realist. This team right now, offensive coordinator issues, a new OC and a new DC to start the season. That was a concern for me heading in, and we're really seeing it now. Matt Patricia taking over play calls. Darius Slay is not, I don't think he's going to suit up for this game. He had knee surgery last week. Bradbury is extremely slow at the moment. He's getting beat nonstop. If you see, that final drive was all against Bradbury. Every single play was against Bradbury. A couple DK catches, a catch at the end for Jackson Smith-Njigba. The offense is clearly not clicking. 3 losses in a row. They haven't scored 20 points. I like that they leaned on the ground game a little bit last week. They should do the same, but this is a lot of points. It's 12.5 for a divisional game. And I understand that the Giants have some issues as well, but Kenneth Walker had his best success rate in terms of running the football in his career last week against Philly. Saquon Barkley should be able to run on them as well. And one thing I did see from Philly, and Mike, maybe you can talk about this as well, maybe I'm just off my rocker here, is the start of the game, they had 2 long drives of like 14, 15 plays that killed like 8 or 9 minutes off the clock. And that's what we saw from them early in the season. So if they can do that in this game, it's going to eat up a lot of clock. I don't see them blowing out anybody at this moment. So there could be a backdoor cover. Give me plus 12.5 Giants. And don't win because it would ruin my Christmas.
He begs for it. Jalen, if you're watching, help our guy out.
It's fine. He's asking for commitment. He needs commitment from everybody up and down, play calling, offensive line, defensive line, everything. What do you think, Mike? Talk to me. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, here's my version on this story. You're looking at the second matchup in the NFC East between these two teams. Anytime you have a second matchup, it ends up being really close, and I think that's reasonable. So I have no problem with the pick here. I do think the Eagles win. I've had people in survival pools who are afraid to pick the Eagles because they lost 3 in a row. Let's take it easy, folks. We're in week 16 here. So do I think the Eagles get the win? Yes. I do have a hesitancy to think the Giants are going to play well here, but I will admit with Chris, I get it. Second time they're matching up, 12 is a lot here, NFC East.
Hey, you mentioned the total earlier, 42.5, still the line on it, correct? Are you taking the over or under?
I would lean to the under from some of the things that I just said. I mean, the offense is not clicking at the moment. And I mean, I don't expect the Giants to go in there and score 30 points. But I expect like the Giants to be able to have success running the football, which eats up the clock. And on the same side, I mean, Philly has to do this. They did a little bit more last week with Swift, Kenneth Gainwell. Mike, I know you were on that. Great prop call. Run the ball, lean on the offensive line. That's the true identity of the team. You can't be having Jalen Hurts just sling it. He leads the NFL in turnovers now. Like, he's had 2 fourth quarter interceptions last week, a couple the week before. I think it's going to be low scoring.
All right, Dallas fans freaking out after the Cowboys loss. I think all the doubters were riding high on that one. I'm excited for this game. Miami, Dallas in Miami. Okay, first of all, how much does this game being in Miami play a role in this specific matchup?
Oh, for me, it plays a huge role, Abby. Yeah. That's the cake for me because Dallas is a different team at home. You can take the Hulk gift where they're slamming things back and forth on X. They're a different team at home than they are away. They got pushed around in the last game. Basically, Buffalo admitted that the offensive coordinator admitted that he adjusted mid-game because he saw they couldn't stop the run. That is basically saying that the Cowboys are soft. That's what they're saying. Now, the Dolphins have a lot of injuries. Raheem Mostert didn't practice today. Devontae Chain didn't practice today. So there's a lot of people banged up here. But I like Miami laying the 1.5 at home here against Dallas. I think Dallas is a different team on the road. I think Tyreek Hill is rested. He's going to be ready for this game. I don't trust the Dallas defense. I think they're a bit of a paper tiger, and I'm concerned here about Dallas. So I'm laying the point, but I admit because the game's in Miami.
So for Dallas fans, Dallas has won 9 straight after a loss, but their 4 losses have come on the road this season. So, Meaney, what are your thoughts on this? I know you were looking at this game too.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I mean, I like Miami here in this spot. I was just on Dane's podcast as well. I know he gave a little bit of love to Dallas, and he had some really good points and just the pressure that the Cowboys can dial up, and that's where we've seen Tua and this Miami offense struggle earlier in the season against the Buffalo Bills, against the Philadelphia Eagles, 2 teams that got some pressure on him. But what I saw last week was a Cowboys team just unprepared to stop the run. Maybe they just can't stop the run. I don't know. They really ran the ball down their throats, and Miami can run the ball a hell of a lot better than Buffalo can with all the guys in motion. I wouldn't worry about Mostert. He hasn't been practicing for weeks. He really hasn't. Tyreek Hill should be good to go as well. It should be a really good game. And we've been waiting for this for a while. In fact, these are the 2 teams everybody just doesn't believe in. They don't believe in them.
Yeah.
Cowboys, prove it. Beat somebody good. Miami, prove it. Beat somebody good. Miami hasn't beaten anybody with a winning record in like over 440 days. So it's been a minute. And the Cowboys, as you mentioned, are 3-4 on the road. Their offensive numbers, like almost 40 points per game dating back to last year in Dallas, like sub 20 on the road. Miami's going to score. We know that. So I'm with Mike. I might drink a little bit of the juice and take the minus 120 just on the money line because it would just burn me if Miami won by 1 point or something silly like that. But I think that they win the game at home, and they are a really good team at home, and Dallas hasn't shown us that they're a good team on the road.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that one. Dak Prescott, our prop tool is showing that the under has an edge. That line's 277.5 right now. So interesting one to look at. Vikings, Lions, guys. Detroit trying to lock up the NFC North and clinch the division for the first time in 30 years. But then there's a lot of pressure on the Vikings too, guys. So these are 2 teams that come in with kind of opposite motivation, right? Like the Vikings are fighting to stay in the playoff conversation, and then the Lions are just trying to cap things off and secure where they're at right now. So the line on that 3.5, are we going Vikings? Are we going Detroit? I mean, Detroit's been so good lately. It's hard to bet against them. But the Vikings got a lot on the line.
Yeah. I didn't think I would like this pick. And the more I looked into it, the more I kind of feel like the Vikings will keep things close. So there is a plus 3.5 out there. There's a plus 150 on the money line. I know I've been picking the Lions all year long. I really liked what I've seen from them. There was a great get right spot for them last week against Denver, another game on the road. Jared Goff had a great bounce back game as well, but he has struggled on the road. I know that this game is in a dome. I understand that, but the home and away splits are significant. Before that big 5 touchdown game, he had like 7 picks over a 4-week span. The defense, I don't believe in Detroit at the moment. And I thought Nick Mullins did some okay things. Like he took care of the ball a lot better than Joshua Dobbs did. And, having Justin Jefferson back is huge. Ty Chandler gave them something on the ground as well. Alexander Madison's done nothing all year. I know the Lions have a good run defense, but I really wish from a drama standpoint that Detroit lost last week, because these two teams play each other again in a couple weeks. And the division was kind of there for the taking if they had lost. But as you pointed out, Minnesota is fighting for a playoff spot. They're here at home. They got some weapons. They got playmakers all over the field. Another division game here. I'm going to lean with Minnesota to keep this as a field goal game.
All right, Detroit's 5-2 in away games, and they're also 5-2 against the spread in away games. Mike, I don't know if you sway the opposite or if you're going to tell Chris on this.
No, I'm telling Chris, and I love the pick. I think everybody's on Detroit because of recency bias and knee-jerk reaction. I think this is a close game. I think it's a division game. They have to play twice. We talked about that. Similar Giants and Eagles are actually playing twice coming up here for the rest of the season. I love this pick, Chris. I'm with you on the Eagles. With the Vikings, the hook is too much. Very close game, and one of the best units in the NFL that no one is talking about here, what Brian Flores has done with that Vikings defense so far.
Yeah,
that's one thing I failed to bring up, Abby, is the defense. And I know they had maybe a bit of a letdown in the second half last week against the Bengals, but this has been a good defense. Flores should be a head coach somewhere in the NFL. He's that good. And their run defense has been pretty strong this year as well. Good call, Mike.
All right, Texans back to winning, right? We were drinking the Texans Kool-Aid a while ago, and then things went a little south without CJ Stroud. Sounds like he might return this week. Do we have a status update on him?
Actually, kind of looking like he won't. It's kind of looking like it's going to be Case Keenum again for Houston.
There we go. Okay, well, I know, Mike, you're looking at the total on this. The spread's 2.5 in favor of the Browns for this game. I don't know if you guys are staying away from that or you're going to play it. Mike, what do you like about this?
You know what I like is our FTN model for totals, which is 21-10 this year, 67.74%, 68% with the totals when we've had at least a 9% or higher edge. I like the under in this matchup, and I agree with our model, which projects us right now at a 10.6% edge, under 42.5. It's actually down to 40. We still like it at 40. It was even a higher edge when it was 42. Here's my rationale, guys. You have to project how the game is going to go. We just saw Joe Flacco with the orange turn into a pumpkin there last week with all the turnovers. Besides the big pass to Amari Cooper, I get that. He's regressed a little bit. So if you guys are Browns head coach, Kevin Stefanski, and you have to do something here, what are you going to do? We're going to be conservative. We're not going to push it with Flacco. Oh, by the way, Cleveland has a pretty good defense, I think. Fantastic in DVOA here per Aaron shots. And oh, by the way, does Houston have a good defense? Yes, they do. And they're going with Case Keenum. Both teams, critical game. They really need it. Conservative game plan. We're not slinging it with Flacco because the clock has struck 12, and our model likes it at a 10% edge, which was, like I said, 68% this year. Check. I am taking the under in this matchup between the Browns and the Texans.
I might go Texans for my my money line dog pick this week. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean they're finding ways to win games.
That's what I'm saying.
Earlier in the season, it was
good coaching.
Yeah, good coaching for sure. D'Amico Ryans has done a hell of a job with this squad. Yeah, I mean they won a couple games late with CJ Stroud, and they did the same thing with Case Keenum. It's very similar. Anyways, they went to overtime and they found a way to win that game. So. Yeah, it's gonna be a big game. It's a big game for Buffalo, and we're gonna talk about them in a little bit because one of those teams is gonna lose, and the Bills are gonna win this week, so they're gonna gain a game. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, Abby, but definitely seeing that edge that Randall's talking about, the 10.6 edge, and it's just been pretty much automatic. Another double-digit edge is the over between the Steelers and the Bengals as well. It's a low number at 37, but I'm with you, Abby. Let's ride.
Right.
Texans, come on.
Well, I'll tell you what, my money line dogs have been doing well. Tampa Bay Bucks. You guys weren't on the show last week, but I was riding Tampa Bay. They went right on into Lambeau and
great call.
Proved me right. Let's go. Do we want to
on Jordan Love? Did you say that Jordan Love is just completely overrated? Is that what you said?
Exactly what I said.
Or was it Baker Love? Baker Mayfield Love.
Baker. I was on Baker at the beginning of the season. I was I was riding the Baker train. I think I'm still riding the Baker train. What do we got for this week? Do you want to go Tampa Bay this week?
I do.
Jacksonville.
I was with you, actually, with her FTN picks. I had the Bucks as well.
There we go.
A little bit on Green Bay. I'm still not completely sold on them. I know Love has done some good things, and he had some nice wins against the Lions and the Chargers, but then lost to the Giants on the road, and then really the Bucks smacked them in the mouth at Lambeau. I like where they're at. Baker led the NFL in passing yards last week. He's been a really fun story. Rashad White, from a fantasy standpoint, is a top 5 back. He was awful to start the season, but he had really tough matchups against good run defenses. He's got 80-plus yards on the ground in 4 straight. He's got 50 grabs on the season. Evans is a future Hall of Famer who a lot of people thought would regress with Baker, but he was actually better with Baker this year than he was with Brady last year. He's got over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. And I don't know about the Jags right now. I don't know how healthy Trevor Lawrence is, concussion protocol without Christian Kirk. Back-to-back weeks when I was really starting to feel them was they played Browning and Flacco in back-to-back weeks and allowed 64 points to those two teams. So I have some questions about their defense at the moment. This time last year, Travis Etienne slowed down. It looks like he has slowed down as well inside this offense. So I am feeling Tampa Bay here. I like the Bucs. I've come off the Saints not winning the division. It's Tampa's division now to lose.
There we go.
All
Mike,
I knew is that the Falcons were fraud. That's all I knew.
What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, the Saints got the win last week and burned me, but I have been much more profitable fading the Saints than supporting them. I don't like them, but to Chris's point, no one in this division is very good. He was right about the Falcons from start to finish. They have struggled. God forbid Arthur Smith actually gives the ball to Bijan Robinson or throws the ball to Kyle Pitts or throws the ball to Drake London. It is what it is, so they may win it by simply just hanging around long enough. But kudos to our Aaron Schatz, who predicted that Tampa Bay is going to win this division at the beginning of the season. I do not believe him. And here we go. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White, who has been the premier dead zone running back that everyone got between rounds 4 and 6 there, unless you got James Cook, who's my guy. But besides that, he's been great. And Tampa Bay, yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I agree.
I love it. All right, we want to get into the Bills. Bills at Chargers. Chris? What'd you like?
Yeah, I'm not too crazy about this game, but I know Mike likes the Bills in terms of futures. And, since you mentioned James Cook, I got 3 props already in the tracker for James Cook, over 14.5 rushing attempts. I've really seen since Joe Brady's taken over the offensive coordinator. That's my one problem with the Bills over the past few years. They've been too one-dimensional. Just they rely on Josh Allen way too much. They haven't been able to have a ground game, and they've just leaned on the ground game lately. The over 23.5 receiving yards is one that I like as well. He's been a big time player in the receiving game lately. And I like the rushing prop at 68.5. I mean, they're 12, I think, 13-point favorites roughly. I think it's 12 now against the Chargers, who just fired their coach. That does worry me a little bit. Like they'll actually maybe come to play now that Staley's out. But the Bills are going to win the game. And if they are indeed up, they're going to lean on the ground game and James Cook. So those are some props I like. And I know that Mike really likes the Bills for some futures.
Yeah, let's talk about that, guys. Okay, we'll start with you, Mike. Go ahead and state your case for the Bills, because it is that time of year where we should go ahead and start. I mean, we've been discussing it, but now we all got to lock in now when it comes to this. And it's probably some good value on some of these teams now, week 16, before we really start getting down to the wire. And then you see those odds shift a lot. So you're going Bills? Yeah.
Oh, I'm going Bills to win the AFC. Momentum is something you do not mess with. Let's look at what Buffalo has done the last couple of weeks. They blitzed the Jets. They ended up playing the Eagles in a really close game that they could have won if Gabe Davis turns the right way or Josh Allen throws the ball a different way. They're at plus 650 right now because they still have not moved up. They're still 8-6. They have at Kansas City with a win. They destroyed Dallas. You know they're going to pound the Chargers. Although, just to note, our model does like the over in that game because, of course, people are going to think that they're going to score 0 points against Buffalo's defense. They are still number 3 in team DVOA per Aaron Schatz here. This is a good Bills team. You know they can win this game. You know they're going to get on a run. They're not that much worse than Kansas City. I don't see teams that they can't beat here in the AFC. They could certainly beat Miami. They're going to finish up strong, and they have momentum. Just because the team hasn't been playing well doesn't mean they don't have the talent. You've seen it in multiple sports. Don't mess with the momentum. You're giving me plus 650. By the time, Abby, we get to the playoffs, it's going to be plus 300.
See, there we go. All right. Hey, Chris, what are your thoughts on the AFC picture?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love the call. I gave this on Mean Streets, the first part of this, the Bills to win the NFC East, or sorry, AFC East. That should be AFC. I'm drinking the eggnog a little bit too early, I think. But for them to win the division, Mike said it. I mean, the schedule, right? The Chargers, the Pats, and then Miami. And then Miami's got, as much as we like them this week, is a tough game for Dallas. And then next week they got a game against Baltimore, and then they got that what could come down to week 18, and whoever wins maybe wins that division. But I like the call here. They are playing good football. They're playing with a lot of confidence. Things weren't working out for them early. I mentioned the change at OC, which is just methodical drives, man. Just can't be having, and it's not a shot at Josh Allen, but you just can't be having him chuck the ball as much as he does. You gotta have defenses respect the run, and I'm seeing that lately. So yeah, I really like them. And then the other team you saw there was Rams, and I wanted to give some love to just the prop shop. I think DraftKings is hanging 2-1 for them to be a wild card team. Of course, if they make the playoffs, it's going to be as a wild card team. They're not, you can't catch the Niners, but 5-1 over at Bet Rivers. So just forget about the NFC East there for a second. The Rams plus 500 for them to make the playoffs. Going to beat the Saints this week on Thursday Night Football. They got the Giants next week, and then a tough matchup, week 18 against the Niners. It could be all clinch for San Fran. There's a possibility maybe they rest some guys or not, but ultimately really like where the Rams are at. Stafford has been fantastic over the past couple of weeks. Kyron Williams, 20-plus touches on the ground in 3 straight weeks since he's been back. Vintage Cooper Cup games over the past couple of weeks looks healthy. Puka Nacua. Defense is making some plays. I'm concerned about the offensive line, but Abby, they played Cleveland, and Stafford had almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then they went into Baltimore, and he had almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Those are top 2 defenses, according to our DVOA statistics. Those have been really good defenses all year long, and Stafford and company were able to put up some points. So I think that they're a team that you don't want to mess with. I think they could upset the Eagles if it's a 7-2 matchup. I think they could upset the Lions if it's some sort of 6-3 matchup. Really like the Rams. I think just like Buffalo, they're feeling themselves at the right time of the year.
Yeah, I was going to tee you guys both up for that, and I love it because some of these, the odds to make the playoffs for a lot of these teams, these are fun ones that I like to play around with, right? And I think now's the perfect time to kind of lock some of those in at good value. So, Mike, is there anybody that you're seeing who's kind of teetering on that edge, who makes the playoffs, who doesn't make the playoffs? Is there a line that you like when you look at the picture for that for both the AFC and the NFC?
Yeah, not necessarily a line, but some teams that I like here. And you just have to look at a path that somebody could get hot and really make a move here. You look in the AFC North. I mean, there are teams, if you really had a thing with the Bengals and thought the Bengals could continue their run and make it in, that's fine. But both the AFC North and the AFC South have teams completely bunched up here. People may be a little cooler on Houston. That's pretty much it. I'm looking for teams that can make a run. And of course, there's Minnesota, who's hiding at 7-7, but is going to have 2 games here against the Lions. So I'm looking for value on teams that could sneak in, that could be that 7 spot, be that 6 spot, and then get on a run and then make a run like we saw Green Bay did do year after year with Aaron Rodgers in that last spot. What I think is going to happen is even if they don't get the division like Chris says, which they could, the Bills could be that team. They certainly have the star quality.
Is there anybody? So the Niners are a huge favorite in the NFC. Are you making an argument for anybody else to come out of there?
I'm not. In fact, I'm glad you brought this up because they have exact results over at DraftKings. I just don't think that it's the Niners and everybody else. We've already seen them. I think in 2 games against the Eagles and the Cowboys, like plus 84 point differential. It's just not going to happen. And we don't want to wish any injuries. The only way that San Fran won't win is if something happens to Brock Purdy or CMC. That's it. This team is just too good at the moment. And I see some exacts like San Fran, Baltimore. That's like 10-1. You can do San Fran and Buffalo.
I like those.
That's like 14-1. San Fran, KC.
Chris, that's what Aaron had to start the year. That's what Aaron Schatz had to start the year when he went on all the shows. He had San Francisco and Buffalo. Yep.
Amazing.
Here's the exact odds. I think I had it wrong. Baltimore and San Fran 5-1. Baltimore and Buffalo, that's 14-1. Like I just don't see Baltimore and San Fran would happen. I just can't see anyone in the NFC. So instead of taking the 2-1 for them to win the Super Bowl, maybe just do it's almost like hedging, but it's instead do some exacts, like what are the 3 teams in the AFC that we think could really make a run here? KC, Baltimore, Buffalo.
Yeah, Baltimore.
I don't know, maybe Miami. There's like 4. The other teams I don't feel are going to make a run. So if you do like San Fran and KC, or San Fran and Baltimore, or San Fran and Buffalo, like all those are paying pretty good. You hit one of those, you're going to get a profit, even if you put like 0.25 units or 0.5 units on those exact matchups. So I see San Fran cruising in, and then one of the 3 AFC teams, and you can get some pretty decent odds that way.
I like it. All right, guys. I won't ask you about the Super Bowl yet. We'll save that. We'll save that for see that next week. We can talk Super Bowl odds.
Okay.
Tease it. All right, guys. Good stuff as always. Hey, for those football fans that are watching who don't watch hockey, that is a hockey team on Chris Meaney's head, the Canadians.
Oh, yeah.
He wants us all to know that he's true to Montreal.
They still call themselves a hockey team, but they haven't been good in years. But
all right, guys, appreciate you all as always. Happy holidays, guys. I guess we won't talk to anybody again until after the holiday, after Christmas. So you guys enjoy, drink plenty of eggnog, but also remember to hydrate, because that eggnog, it'll sneak up on you if you're not careful. And may the best bets win for all of you this weekend, hopefully, because we all need extra Christmas money. I'm in debt right now, I'll tell you what. So I need some extra Christmas gift money for sure. For Mike Randle, Chris Meaney, I'm Abby Labar. Thanks for tuning in to FTN Network and the NFL Betting Show.